There was a young lady named Chiamaka who lived in the eastern part of Nigeria. Chiamaka came from a very humble background. She was the only child her parents had after 20 long years of childlessness. Her parents did everything humanly possible to ensure that their only child would become someone great in life. Before Chiamaka's mother gave birth to her, she had carried the pregnancy for 15 months, an unusual and mysterious situation that attracted mockery and gossip from many people in the community. But her mother remained unmoved by the ridicule. She was determined to bring her child into the world, no matter what. Chiamaka started school at the age of 2. She grew faster than her peers, and many were amazed at how intelligent and strong she was. As the years went by, she advanced to secondary school. By the time she reached senior secondary school 2, SS2, everything began to change. She started associating with men in different places, sneaking out after school and making questionable choices. One day, after returning from school, Chiamaka began to experience serious stomach pain and unusual stooling. At first, she thought it was something minor, but 3 months later, she noticed her breast had grown significantly, and her belly had begun to swell. She was smart enough to know what was happening. She was pregnant. Frightened and ashamed, Chiamaka fled from her parents' home. She knew how much they had suffered to have her, and she couldn't bear the disappointment her condition would cause them. She traveled to the northern part of Nigeria, where she stayed hidden. 9 months later, Chiamaka gave birth to a set of beautiful twin boys. Alone, broke, and without anyone to support her or the babies, Chiamaka was overwhelmed. She cried day and night. With no food, no shelter, and no direction, she made a painful decision. In the dead of night, she left her newborn twins in a dustbin. Her heart shattered, but she convinced herself it was the only way. Back in the east, Chiamaka's parents were drowning in sorrow. 2 months had passed with no word from their daughter. Convinced she was either dead or gone forever, they decided to adopt a child, hoping it would bring some healing to their broken hearts. They visited several orphanages, but none had newborns available. On their way home, something unexpected happened. They saw a woman on the roadside carrying a pair of twin boys. Out of curiosity, they stopped her. The woman explained that she had found the twins abandoned in a dustbin in the north. She was on her way to drop them off at an orphanage in the east, one known for taking good care of children because they were well funded. What Chiamaka's parents didn't know was that these were their own grandchildren. Before Chiamaka had abandoned the twins, she had secretly marked them, a small identifying symbol only she would recognize. Touched by the woman's compassion and desperate to love again, Chiamaka's parents offered her some money and asked if they could keep the twins instead of taking them to the orphanage. She agreed, and the twins were brought into their home. 5 years later, the boys began attending the same school Chiamaka had once attended. Strangely, some of the teachers started commenting on how much the twins looked like Chiamaka. One day, after nearly 10 years of silence, Chiamaka called her parents. She was weeping uncontrollably. Through tears, she told them she was alive. Her parents were overwhelmed with joy and shock. They had lost hope of ever hearing from her again. Eventually, Chiamaka returned home to visit them. But something caught her attention immediately. As she entered the house, she saw 2 young boys playing in the living room. "Mommy, who are these boys? Do you people hire house helps to assist you with chores?" she asked innocently. Her mother replied, "Yes, my daughter. We're getting old and needed help around the house." But Chiamaka couldn't shake the feeling. Days later, she noticed something, a mark on one of the boys. Her heart skipped. She rushed to check the second boy, and there it was again. The exact mark she had left on her sons 10 years ago. Confused and emotional, she called her parents and sat them down. "Daddy, who are those boys staying in this house?" Her father sighed deeply and began to speak. "My daughter, after you ran away and we couldn't find you for years, your mother became severely depressed. We didn't know what else to do. We decided to adopt a child to ease the pain. On our way back from an orphanage, we met a woman returning from the north. She was carrying twin boys and said she found them in a dustbin. She said she found them in a dustbin," her father continued slowly, his voice shaking, "and she was taking them to an orphanage in the east. We saw how fragile they looked and begged her to let us take them. We gave her some money and brought them home. Since then, we've raised them as our own." Tears rolled down Chiamaka's cheeks as she sat motionless, her eyes fixed on the boys playing in the corner of the room. She couldn't believe it. The children she thought she had lost forever, the same ones she had left behind in hopelessness, were sitting under the same roof as her parents. Her heart began to pound violently, a storm of emotions flooding her chest: guilt, joy, pain, and confusion. "Mommy. Daddy, those boys are my children." Her parents froze. "What?" her mother whispered. "I gave birth to them 10 years ago, in the north. I was scared and alone. I had no food. No help. I didn't want to shame you both because of everything you went through to have me. I left them, but before I did, I gave them both a mark, the secret mark only I would know." Her mother's hands trembled. "You mean to tell me, we've been raising our own grandchildren?" Chiamaka nodded slowly, weeping as she looked at the 2 boys who shared her eyes, her smile, and her soul. Silence filled the room. Her father covered his face and began to cry for the first time in years. Her mother slowly walked over to the twins and knelt beside them. She held their hands and stared at the marks. Then she turned back to Chiamaka, her voice cracking. God truly works in mysterious ways. We thought we lost you. But instead, He brought your children to us, and He brought you back to us through them. Chiamaka couldn't hold back anymore. She rushed toward her parents and dropped to her knees. The three embraced each other tightly, crying and shaking, surrounded by the innocence of the twins who had no idea what was unfolding before them. But this reunion would soon open the door to a greater challenge. How would the boys react if they found out that the woman they had always called Grandma was actually their mother? And what about the truth? The full truth. Would Chiamaka have the strength to tell them everything? Would our community forgive her? Would our own soul ever find peace? Final chapter, the truth unfolds. That evening, Chiamaka sat alone in her childhood bedroom, her heart pounding with questions she had no answers to. The twins were asleep in the next room, completely unaware that the woman they had met earlier was their biological mother. She stared at the ceiling, battling her fears. Would they hate her for abandoning them? Would they ever understand? The next morning, her father called a family meeting. He believed it was time for the truth to come out, slowly and carefully. The twins were brought into the sitting room, cheerful and innocent. Chiamaka knelt before them and held their hands. With trembling lips and watery eyes, she looked into their faces and whispered, "My sons, I have something very special to tell you." The boys looked at her with curiosity. "You both have always called me Auntie Chiamaka, but I am more than that. I am your mother." There was silence. The older twin, Chiamaka, blinked. "What do you mean?" "Our grandma is our mommy." Chiamaka smiled sadly and nodded. "Yes, because she raised you with love and gave you everything. But I gave birth to you. I carried you in my womb. I brought you into this world, but I made a terrible mistake. I was young, afraid, and lost. I didn't know what to do, and I made a choice that I regret every single day of my life." The younger boy, Chidra, was silent. Then he whispered, "Why did you leave us?" Chiamaka broke down. "Because I thought I was saving you from shame, from poverty, from suffering. But in doing that, I lost the greatest gift I ever had. And I've suffered too, every single day. I never stopped thinking about you. Never." The boys looked at each other, unsure of what to say. Then something remarkable happened. Chiamaka stood up and hugged her tightly. "Even if you left, God still brought you back. Maybe He wanted us all to come together in the end." Chidra followed, wrapping his small arms around both his brother and his mother. Their grandmother wept softly in the background. "You may have made a mistake, my daughter," she said, "but God turned your mess into a miracle. These boys were never truly lost, they were just waiting to bring you home." From that day, everything changed. Chiamaka didn't just return to her family, she was reborn. She poured her entire heart into her boys. She told them stories, helped with homework, took them to school, and slowly gained their full love and trust. Her parents supported her with every step. Together, they formed an unbreakable bond, stronger than anything shame or fear could destroy. Chiamaka became a voice in her community, advocating for young girls who had lost their way. She shared her story in schools, churches, and even on television. Her tale of pain, redemption, and destiny touched hearts across the nation. And the twins. They grew up knowing not just their roots, but the strength of forgiveness, the power of love, and the beauty of second chances. Moral of the story. Sometimes, life takes us through painful roads, but even in our worst mistakes, grace can still find us. Never be too ashamed to return home. And never forget, what is meant to be yours will always find its way back.